Welcome to the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz, and I am on the mission to change the narrative of immigration, one immigrant story at a time. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz, and today I have Miss Nicole with us, and she's going to be talking to us about her upbringing and also her finance coaching business. So welcome, Nicole. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
I'm so excited. So tell us about yourself. Introduction, who you are, what you do, and then we can get started on your childhood.
So my name's Nicole Stanley. I am the founder of Arise Financial Coaching. I am a Puerto Rican American who my parents came stateside from Puerto Rico when my older sister was very young. And I grew up kind of in a family that we were very money conscious. My dad was a software engineer in the early 2000s. And so he had a really successful career doing that. And also we had, quite a bit of financial stress behind the scenes. And so when I grew up, got married, I really carried that with me. And that began just really a not obsession, but a little bit about personal finance because my husband and I got married young at 22. And at the time, we were making not a lot of money. We had a lot of debt, student debt, car debt, all of that. And we had to figure out from a young age how were we going to, not feel forever stressed and always panicked about money. So that turned me, my childhood plus getting married young really spurred my interest in personal finance and turning my personal family finances around. So in our life, we paid off $30,000 of debt in our first 10 months of marriage. And then we built our family's net worth over the next year and a half to um, over $100,000. And then by the age of 31, we now have over $500,000. And we have done that just by doing the regular stuff. No inheritance, no shortcuts. We are not, I would say now we're above average earners. Like over the past maybe 2 years, we made that shift. But for the first 8 years of our marriage, we were making the average annual salary in America, 3 kids. And so, a few years ago, I began helping friends and family with their own financial journeys to try to turn things around to where it's like, okay, whatever the excuses are, let's figure out how to overcome them together. Let's pay off debt. Let's save more. Let's get your family set up. And then that's how I launched Arise Financial Coaching, which now serves over 100 clients globally and has served over 600 clients since we opened in 2020. So I'm excited to talk about all things money and how your listeners can begin to change their own financial story as well.
I love that. And what state did your parents settle to? Like, where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Florida, so near Tampa, Florida.
Oh,
Yeah, so it was kind of paradise, if you ask me. Um, that I didn't realize growing up, but it was a really great place to grow up.
okay. I'm in Central Florida. Where are you now?
I live in, right near Cape Cod in Massachusetts. So
Oh,
we live here by the shore, and it's awesome. We just moved here this year because we have my husband's family, most of them live in New England.
nice. Are your husband's family Puerto Rican too?
Not at all. Nope. Nope, not even at in the tiniest bit. When, some of them didn't even know where Puerto Rico was when we got
Oh,
married.
wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, not at all. He's Italian,
Aw.
and it's great, but very different culture.
Yeah. So how was that for you guys, like mixing the cultures?
Well, I would say that because I grew up in a very, white area, I would say that my upbringing was very, like, socially, I did not really talk too much about my Puerto Rican experience. It was not everybody was very just plain white American.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
then at home, my parents spoke Spanish a lot of the time, and then my grandmother and my grandfather and all my cousins. So it's kind of just a mix, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I'm very used to what that is like, you know? So when we're with my husband's family, it's not I mean, I make Puerto Rican food because it's better,
Oh.
but um, but other than that, they're not really, Spanish or
Yeah.
understand any of
Okay.
that.
And, are you guys like, do you speak Spanish to your kids? Because I struggle with my daughter. Like, she doesn't
Well,
wanna speak Spanish at all.
okay, then tell her that you have a friend, me, who regrets so much because, I mean, technically, my parents, it was like my first language. Like when you look at baby
Yeah.
videos, they're talking to me in Spanish. But when I became a teenager, I was really kind of kind of embarrassed for whatever reason. Maybe because my other
Yeah.
friends didn't speak Spanish. So my mom would talk to me in Spanish and I would say like, I'm only going to talk in English. And because of
Mhm.
that, I lost a lot of my Spanish knowledge. I still to this day, like, understand
Mhm.
most of it, but I get very, when I speak, my family makes fun of me because I sound like a gringa, and so I get very
Oh,
insecure, but whenever
man.
I go somewhere else and I talk Spanish, nobody makes fun of me, it's just my family, like, they're just like, "How are you my daughter?" Like, that's how they look at me, like, with the way that I speak, and it's like, "Okay, well, this doesn't help my confidence."
I know.
Um
I understand, yeah.
but I do my kids know they're Puerto Rican, we talk about it a lot, we talk about the food, I mean, my daughter's
Mhm.
first communion is this weekend, and,
Fun.
I'm like, "It has to be big," because that's I mean, in Puerto Rico, it's a big deal, we
Yeah.
are having a big party, and my daughter's like, she wants, pernil and rice and beans and, like, all of that, and
Yeah.
so I'm just like, "That's what we're gonna do, absolutely." Um but I don't speak as much as I should, and my kids sound even worse than me, so it's getting worse generation by generation.
Oh my gosh, I tell my daughter that I'm like, "You're gonna, like, regret it when you get older, not wanting to
Big regret.
speak," and but so I
Keep doing
talked to
it.
her. Yeah, I
Just
talked to
keep
her.
doing it, and don't stop. Even if she answers you in English, don't
Yeah.
stop. I'm serious. I don't care. That is what I wish my parents would have done, but I was just such in my opinion, I was such a brat about it,
Yeah.
and it was a lost skill, um, and now I beg them. Now I'm like, "Please, please talk to my kids in Spanish more."
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Visiting Puerto Rico, have you been able to go with your family?
Yeah, we used to go almost every summer growing up,
Oh, fun.
and so my dad is from Ponce, my mom's from Mayaguez, and, when they first got married, they had a place in Ponce, and so it wasn't until this year actually that they finally sold that place, so that was, like,
Mm,
our last connection, last thing that we had there,
yeah.
and a lot of family has passed that still lived there. Everyone's kind of come stateside for
Mm,
some reason or another.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, we used to grow up, we'd spend a lot of time in Mayaguez. My great aunt lived, in Bella Vista in this beautiful house, and we used to go there all the time. And my mom was a flight attendant growing up, so
Oh,
we went to Puerto Rico
a
a
lot.
lot. Um, my parents used to joke that whenever they wanted to go on a trip or something, they would fly down to Puerto Rico, drop me and my sister off with my grandma, and then go wherever they were gonna go,
Yeah.
So it was, we got the blessing of going there a lot.
Nice. So talk to me about money growing up. Did your dad talk to you guys about money, or was that something like, "No, we don't talk about it?" Like, um how was the messaging for you growing up when it comes to money? Because I feel like, especially in the immigrant community, it's very common for us to grow up with, like, we don't have enough money, kinda like that survival mode, It's just
Yeah.
like money is always scarce. So how was it for you growing up?
Yeah, I think that because my dad was an engineer, like a software engineer in the early 2000s, I mean, as you can imagine, that's a pretty good career to have.
Yeah.
I watched both him and my aunt, his sister was also an engineer, um, and they both were very successful career-wise. My dad's retired now, but what I learned from a young age was that even though my parents were successful, it didn't mean that their stress went down. Um, I would say my mom and my dad had very different spending styles, and so I watched really my parents really fear a lot about, retirement my whole kind of life, which I always found to be puzzling because of how well they were doing income-wise. But it kinda taught me from a young age that financial success is not just about how much money you make every year, it's about what you do with that money and how you use it to feel really secure. And so, my parents, they talk about money a lot, I would say, more than I mean, my husband's family, they're more of a more money avoidant family, like, that's rude to talk about, like, don't talk about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Where my parents, it's like at the dinner table, "How much was that? How much?" It's very, like, talking about everything, and, um, when I was going to college, my dad was very, very adamant about me getting a professional career because he believed that that was, like, the only path to success, which was you need to become an engineer, a lawyer, or a doctor, and that's it.
yeah,
There's no other options. Um, and so when I first went to college, I actually was studying to become an attorney, but I realized that literally was the worst, and I did not wanna
mm,
do that. And so, I kind of started this quest really to figure out if I could prove my dad wrong in the sense of, like, is there a way to still be financially stable and not have to, sell my soul doing something that I don't like doing?
yeah,
Um but, one of the things that I did really learn from my dad, which I would say is a good thing, is that my dad was always preparing for the worst. Like, and he still is to this day. It's always like things might be good, but you need to always be thinking about if they weren't good, which I think is a very immigrant mentality, like in the sense of like you need to be prepared if
yeah,
everything changes and everything, the floor, you can't trust the rug underneath you. Um, which I don't think is, like, the best always, but it's definitely a part of, I think, when for him, my dad was an Air Force brat, and so my grandfather, enlisted in the Air Force, and, he that's a humble kind of life when you
yeah,
enlist and you're not a officer, and so his parents budgeted and were very, this way with money, and so, I don't know, I think that when I look at the way that my parents raised me versus the way that my husband was raised, the biggest difference was in a money scarce household versus a money avoidant household, and I think that there are some positives to both ways, but at the end of the day, it's the extremes that really become dangerous, and so I think my
yeah.
husband and I had to decide very early because we didn't have a ton of income, we had to decide, okay, like, what's the culture we wanna have about money, knowing that we both have a different upbringing and saying, like, what are the things we wanna take from that and what are the things we wanna let go.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm also thinking just like in the immigrant community, like obviously I don't know the reasons why your parents decide to come statewide, but it's like, they were settled in Puerto Rico and then they had to like start over. So maybe that probably what he had like in the back of his mind just because, moving regardless of where you're going, like moving, you're starting over, right? Like it's starting over, scratch and everything. And so like you're building, 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 but then it's like they already had been settled and then now they're resettling. So it's like, at any moment everything can just burn up, I guess. And so I
Yeah.
definitely understand that. But
Yeah,
that's
my dad
also
always would tell the story of how he came stateside with $20 in his pocket and, my sister who was in diapers, and so he came the first place they lived was Indiana, and so he always said that I came my first job, and I had to ask for a pay advance so that I could buy diapers for Natalie
Aw.
and, pizza because we had nothing in the fridge.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
He loves telling that story.
Very humble beginnings, and then he did very well for himself, so that's great. And I was gonna say, I love how you and your husband, consciously said, like, "Okay, what is going to be our dynamic with money and stuff," and not just like, "Okay, well, this is how I grew up, and like this is how it is." It's like we don't have to do it how we grew up. We can
Mhm.
choose to do it our way. So I love that. So So you do financial coaching. So you told us a little bit of how that got started. Is your husband also a financial coach? Like, do you guys do this together?
No, we don't. My husband, I think he would be a great coach, but he is just not that interested in personal finance. He's like, my eyes just glaze over a little bit. Mine don't. I love it. I think it's fun. Um,
Hi, Heidi here. Thank you so much for listening and supporting my podcast, but most importantly, the mission. If you would like to further support this podcast, there are a few ways you can do that. You can sign up for the newsletter. You'll receive the episodes straight to your inbox every time they drop. The link is in the show notes and the show description. You can subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel. And lastly, you can donate money. That link is also in the show notes and show description. If you would like to sponsor an episode or promote your business on this show, send me an email at Heidi@HeidiDelacruz.com. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the episode.
but yeah, he has been my biggest supporter with starting the business in our personal finance journey because he worked in ministry when we first got married. And so his mindset was like, whatever we need to do, babe, to make this work, like I'm in, right? Like I'll pack a lunch, I'll do
Yeah.
whatever, because that was what he was really wanting to do at the time.
And you do this full time.
I did this full time. Yep. I have
Nice.
2 full-time employees on the team. Um, and Yeah, essentially what I've learned in this process is that just like what you said, the way that we were raised about money is often the way that people subconsciously operate. And financial coaching can be a really great way to invite someone in to help you who's not selling you insurance products, is not trying to sell you investments or manage your money for you, but rather a coach who's somebody who's going to help you see things in a new way, which is typically very hard when you're looking at money because all you know is your own life experience. All you
Yeah.
know is the way that your parents talked about money, the way that you and your spouse or your partner talk about money. You don't have, all you see are the trees in front of you. You don't see the forest. And so for many people, that's often why they are caught in a cycle of either continuing to stay in debt, struggling to build up their savings, and really just feel like their money is something that they can use to do whatever they want in life. And so coaching people helps them see their money in a new way, see solutions maybe that they've never seen before, start to see maybe mindset blocks that they've had for a long time that they've never questioned or never really thought of. And it's funny because they've done studies at Cambridge and they found that the average person decides what they believe about money and decides it for the rest of their life by age 7,
Wow. I believe that though. Yeah.
which tells
Wow.
us whose money mindset do we really have?
Our parents.
Our parents, which means that for many of us, whatever social economic class our parents achieve is currently the social economic class that we're operating in,
Wow.
right? So how can we ever expect to maybe be better off than our parents if we're operating under the same mindsets, never having questioned them.
Mm.
That I think is one of the most powerful things for people is because, like you said, these thoughts, these skills, they are able to be updated, right?
Yes.
It's just many of us
Yeah.
don't even think about it. It's just like, well, I grew up in a house that said when they saw a nice house, must be nice, must be therefore must be nice.
Yeah. Or have yes, yes, or have like that negative, I don't even know, like rhetoric about like, oh my gosh, that person is spending XYZ on this. But it's like, why are you in that person's pocket? Like, that's what's
Mhm.
valuable to them. Like, they feel okay spending that much money on whatever it is that makes them happy. Just because that doesn't, like, you don't find value in that doesn't mean, that someone else doesn't can find value in that. So it's like, I don't know if you follow Ramit.
I do. Yeah.
Love him, love his book, and I love that he says your rich life is what you want to make it. Kinda like what you
Yes.
said earlier. It's like not about how much money you make. It's
Yes.
about how you use that money. How do you use that money to have security and not stress about it, right? So like my husband and I watched the Netflix show or Ramil's
Mhm.
Netflix show and then we read his book and so then we really got to sit down and talk about that. It's like what does the rich life mean for you, for my husband, and then like what does the rich life mean for me? Luckily, we align on a lot of things. There are just certain things that, like, for example, my husband's a gamer, so he won't mind spending money on games and stuff. And yeah, so like there's little like in books. I'm a reader, so I don't mind spending money on books, but like that's not his interest. And so we align on a lot of the big things, but there's just like little things here. So it's just like, what can we do to get to our rich life, right? And
Yeah.
savings, investing, and stuff like that. But yeah, so I love how he said that he's like, and then spend like have a bank an account for your guilt free money,
Mhm.
spending money. Like if you want to buy high end, designer stuff, that's your guilt free money. If you want to buy coffee every day, that's your guilt free money. It's like changing that mindset of like, oh no, no, we can't afford that, or like, oh, I shouldn't be spending money on that, or and things like that. So
Mhm.
I love how you had mentioned that earlier, like spending money how you want to.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, okay. How can people connect with you? How can they get into your ecosystem? Do you have a podcast? Have you written a book? Tell me all the things.
Yeah, well, right now, our main way of helping people is we put on free workshops all the time. We do workshops about investing, since that is often a very big, scary thing for people. And we do workshops about what financial goals that you should be focused on at what time. And those are free. We have those on our website, which is at arise.financial. And we put out a ton of free content on social media. But if someone is really like listening to this podcast and is saying, I have looked at my money a million times over and I don't see a way out. I don't see a different way to approach this, but I'm still feeling like, gosh, I either should be able to do the things I want to do with the amount of money that I have, or I should be able to get out of debt or stay out of debt. Maybe it's time to consider hiring a coach. And we would love to be considered as you do that. So you can always fill out an application on our website, which is arise.financial. We can have a free conversation to see if coaching is good for you and if we're a good fit for each other.
Nice. Okay, so you kind of do a vetting system if to see if it works out. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, we don't just say we can help everyone because that's like, I mean, usually people have to have specific problems. They need, we have to look at kind of what are our programs. And there's so many money problems in the sense of like, sometimes those money problems need an attorney. Sometimes they need an
Okay.
accountant. Sometimes you need a good therapist. Right. And so
Yes.
it's a good idea usually to just have a conversation before being like, why don't you work with us? Right. Because that would
I'm
be kind of
so
irresponsible.
glad you said that about therapy because I had a business coach tell me that. I had asked a question about money, and then she was like, "It sounds like you need to get down to the root cause of that, and I
Mm,
can't help you with that. You need to go see a therapist." And I was like,
yeah.
"Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much for that." So
Okay.
so glad you said that. Oh my goodness. Okay, awesome. So I will include all the links in the show notes and show description so people can get connected with you. So before I get to the last question, can you give an advice or a nugget for someone who you would be able to help?
Yeah. So if you are somebody who is still feeling like your money brings you more stress than it does happiness or peace or security, right? If you feel like your experience with money is more like a net negative than it is a net positive, and you feel like you've done all the things that you can do on your own, you've tried the budgeting apps, maybe the programs, reading the books, right? I want you to know that you are not the problem. You have a specific financial problem in front of you. And sometimes it's a little bit complex to figure out what that problem is. Is it a spending problem? Is it an income problem? Is it a money management problem? Is it a financial strategy problem, meaning you are putting money towards the wrong things in the wrong order? I want you to know that the books that you read, the budgets that you're working with, the programs and the blogs that you look at, while there's a lot of good advice, they may not know what problem you specifically are trying to solve. And so it's okay if you've run into situations where you try good advice and it doesn't work for you. That doesn't mean that your financial situation is beyond hope. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong, but it might mean that you need a different solution or a different strategy, and that's okay. So, no financial problem is unfixable. If you can take anything away, I want you to know that every financial problem is fixable. And sometimes it's not the first solution that you try, but as long as you keep trying, I promise you can change your financial life.
Okay. Beautiful. One more question before I get to the last one. Okay.
Oh,
So, what would you say to that person who may be like, well, if I have financial, like if I can't afford X, Y, and Z, how would I be able to afford a financial coach to help me get my finances together? You see?
yeah.
How would you combat that? Or how, yeah, what would you say to that person?
Well, I don't know if combat is a word for that I would like to use, but I think that for many people, they have two options in front of them. The cheapest way to solve your financial problems, it's always going to be to read a book and to do it. However, over 79% of Americans rate their stress about finances higher than anything else. And so, if you've been trying to improve your money and you're still going into debt more, you're still not adding to savings, my question is what's actually more expensive? Staying where you are or hiring somebody who's done it a million times, who eats your problems for breakfast, knows how to solve them, knows how to solve them a million ways? That will cost you something, right? But I often find that that cost is a good thing for people who really need it because it means that they're going to show up and they're going to take it seriously, right? So I think that just because you pay to get financial help doesn't mean it's a bad decision. I think the question is to ask, what's actually the most expensive path for you?
That's so good. Nicole, thank you so much. And okay, last question. What does the American dream mean to you?
The American dream for me is that I have the freedom to choose. That really is what I believe. I believe that I want my financial future to be within my control, which I think is something that a lot of people don't like, which is why there are so many countries that aren't like America, right? Like I have clients in Europe, I've had clients in the Middle East, and um, at the end of the day, there's no country in the world that has the wealth building opportunities that America has, and that comes down to the way we're taxed, really. And
Mhm.
so, when I think about the blessings that we have here, which is the ability to invest in the stock market, the ability to start a business, the ability to, choose, those are really amazing things. And so, for me, the American dream is about having the choice to choose what I want for my family, having the freedom to do it. And money is really how that works. And there is no other kind of path to get there, if that makes sense. Like it's freedom of our dollars, and that's what America gives its people that many countries in the world don't. And that freedom comes at a cost. And I looking at the American experiment and really, my dad talked about the American dream a lot growing up. We talked about it all the time. We still talk about it all the time. Um, I think for me, it's the ability to choose. And many people in America, I think, can forget that that's the beauty of autonomy over our money is that we get to choose. But it also means it's a little scary because when it doesn't go well, it means we have to choose to make a change, you know? And so I don't know, I think with maybe there's some quote from some movie that talks about like with great freedom, no, it's great responsibility. No. With great freedom, there's responsibility. I think that is the American dream, but it also can turn into the American nightmare, right? Like when you have the freedom to choose. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I mean, I'll give you an example. Like in Germany, I have clients, there's no tax advantaged way to invest, which means no matter if they wanna retire and have their own money, not just be dependent on what the state gives them, um, they lose about 40% on the money they put in, the money as it grows, and the money as they take it out.
Wow.
Taxes are not a joke. And so we have really cool tax advantage ways in America to build wealth that I think every person should know about because
Mm.
that's the beauty of this country is like you can come here and in one generation you can change your whole family's financial future. There's not
Yeah.
that many countries in the world where you can do that. And so for me it kind of wakes me up with a carpe diem mentality. Um and it makes me really grateful to be in this country.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Nicole. Thank you so much for teaching us so much. Man, I swear I learned so much from each of my guests. Again, I include your show note, your website in the show notes and show description. What social media do you like to hang out at?
Instagram is our preferred way. We go on there a lot. We put most of our content on there. So find us on Instagram and then we're also on Threads.
Perfect. Okay. We'll include those links as well. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Mommy Podcast.